There's people that have been saying that the market is crashing for 3 years now.
So why hasn't it happened yet? We're going to get into it in this video and we're getting started right now.
We actually think right now might be one of the better times to buy a home. If you are looking to buy or sell a home in the Sarasota, Venice areas, make sure to call, text, or email us. I am a local realtor here, 941-221-1897.
The first reason prices have not crashed or the home market hasn't crashed yet is number one, there just ain't the supply.
Yes.
Basics, supply and demand. Supply has been starting to build a little bit finally over the last couple months in this area and Florida in general, really. But that's really the biggest trigger, I think, that could lead to a crash. There's really no reason for homes to get overly devalued unless there's a really low supply, unless that demand is lower, which at the moment is a little bit lower, and that's why you are seeing supply start to build.
Yes, I feel like for a while, there was not a lot of demand, but there was also not a lot of inventory. So you can't crash the market if there is not enough inventory.
And a big reason for this really comes down to interest. If interest rates, weren't so high, then yeah, we'd probably still see crazy demand, prices shooting up. But with the interest rates being high, it has kind of leveled off prices, which is part of why we think now is a good time to buy, because this, we think, is the correction. We might see some slightly bigger drops, I guess we'll see. But with interest being that high, who wants to sell a home and then go buy a new home and then be locked into a higher interest rate? It just doesn't add up for most people. You're gonna get a smaller, probably worse home and pay the same amount or more. It just, for most people, the desire to go buy a new home and list their home to add to that inventory is not there.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to downgrade your home and pay more. Another reason is new construction. Yes, there is new construction available, but builders did not go crazy like they did back in 2008. For a while, they were releasing lots and building for people that actually went under contract with them. Yes, they still had a couple homes here and there that they were just building and hope to sell, which they did. And right now, there is a lot of builders that are still building, but they're pacing themselves. So new construction is not out of control. So we don't have a lot of homes sitting on the market that are new builds.
Yeah, and really, if you think about the way the demand was at like the peak of like the market just going crazy, shooting up, there was waiting lists. There was, so it wasn't like they were just building homes to build them and someone will come by. I'm like, no, there was like a stack of people and they were literally having lotteries for people to buy homes. Like we saw the list. Yeah. So that is no longer the case anymore. Don't get me wrong, but it just shows you kind of where we started from. And now, we're kind of at the point where, okay, those waiting lists aren't here anymore, but they're also not building like crazy. They're building according to the demand. So I think that's one of the biggest differences in that dynamic. And also I think another factor that's important to consider is the one that you've probably heard a few times before, so we won't beat a dead horse, but this isn't 2008 as far as the kinds of people that are getting mortgages that are not qualified. I mean, it's pretty simple. With that not being the case, that helps things significantly.
Yes, I actually have a background in credit and loans, and what lenders are looking for right now to approve and pre-approve even a buyer, it's not the same as back in 2008 when people were getting approved for mortgages they could not afford. So in a sense, we created that issue back then. Right now, lenders are only approving you if you are qualified, and 3 days before closing, they are contacting your employer to make sure that you're still employed there and you're still getting paid what you said you were when you got pre-approved. And that's how they finalize the loan and approve you for the loan. So if you lose your job during that time period, they're checking back on that. And if you lost that income, they're not going to approve you unless you can prove that you can make those payments. And back in 2008, they were not doing that.
Yeah, and I know I've seen some YouTubers, the ones that really try to get the clicks and allow the views by saying there's going to be a crash for 3 years and it still hasn't happened. And I get kind of some of what they say, crashes take time, because the 2008 one did take time. And we are seeing things level up. So, that still could happen. But they also were saying it already started 3 years ago and it kept going up. So there's also that. But I know some of those people would also, they pointed out some like these new loan programs that are out right now that, would only basically be a possibility for a very small segment of people and still have very rigorous guidelines for people in order to get the loans. And they're trying to equate that to like, oh no, see, it's all happening again. They haven't learned their lessons, or look at all these homes that are being built with like new construction. And again, because they're not maybe in the industry, a lot of that context gets kind of missing and they don't understand it or know it, or they're glossing it over because at the end of the day, a lot of people do want the market to crash. So they're going to tell people what they want to hear and say point out this like kind of certain data that only they can like put together for you and speculate a lot based on one little data point. But again, the fundamentals of supply and demand just are not there at this point. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. There are some things that could maybe cause this crash to happen. And subscribe and turn on all notifications to catch the news videos, because we're gonna make another video talking about the other side of the coin, about reasons why the market could crash. As of right now, I think some of those speculations that they've made have been kind of jumping to conclusions.
3 years. 3 years of the same content, basically. That's how you know if a YouTuber is being transparent or if they're just telling you what you want to hear just so they can get your view.
Because they do make money on that, and that's just the thing. Those are the videos that gets thousands, millions of views.
Yeah, like they're telling you what you want to hear, right? And they know that, so they're kind of like playing this game, and it's unfortunate that someone would playing off of people's emotions like that. That's just not cool.
Yeah, and we've been saying this just to be transparent. Like, you can go back and watch our videos. We've been calling for a correction, a correction at best, or a leveling off, which is kind of at this point what we've seen. Yeah. Our personal opinion is we're seeing the leveling off now. And once interest goes back down, prices are probably going to go back up. Now, I think there are some fundamental issues that could be a problem. We'll cover those again in the other video where we'll talk about the other side of the coin, about why prices could maybe dramatically go down, but stay tuned for that.
Another reason why the market hasn't crashed is because the demand of people wanting to move to Florida is still there. Yes, there are a lot of people moving out of Florida, but there is also a lot of people moving into Florida and a lot of people retiring to Florida. So if we have all those people wanting to move here, there's no way the market can crash unless we have more people moving out of the state.
Yeah, and that's just not the case. And as always, we're hearing from people all the time. Like, literally, like, that's not just something we say in the beginning and the end of the video. Like, we do hear from people all the time. We do love it. There's still a ton of demand for people to move to Florida. Now, we're not saying that couldn't ever change, but I think at this point it hasn't, and it's going to take some time for that to change if it's going to, and I think it's going to take something pretty big to happen. Yes. I think people know at this point what they're getting out of Florida. They have a pretty good understanding of the pros and cons from channels like ours, all the other YouTube channels out there. So it's just a much more educated buyer, I think, that knows what they're getting into. So if someone wants to move to Florida, they've probably done a pretty good amount of research, and there's just more information for them to understand what it's like to move here and what they're getting into. You're gonna have more people coming in because they know what they're getting and they know what they want, and there's less reason for them to leave because they know what they were getting into.
Yes, or there's also the possibility of people wanting to give it a try. Like when we moved here, we just wanted to give it a try, see if we liked it. If we didn't, we were going to move back to Wisconsin. I think a lot of people do that, especially if they either are retired or have the money, or if they're able to either work from home or find a job that, you know, pays good enough to live in Florida. And
with those people, the statistics show that most of those people do end up liking it and they stay. So yeah, at the end of the day, that keeps the demand high, especially for Florida, and yeah, the market doesn't crash because of that. Another reason that the market hasn't crashed is pretty simple. Again, goes back to the interest rates and just home values. Like, people always, I've heard say, like, if they can't afford their mortgage or whatever, or, you know, even an affordability issue in Florida. Number one, the dynamic is very different in Florida because a lot of people that are down here, they bought their house cash, so they're not financing, or maybe they have their own business, or it's, you know, work from home and they're getting their income from another state where they make more money. So those issues aren't always the same. And then on top of that, a lot of people buying the houses here are retired. Like, it's just a second home that they know they can afford to pay for. But on top of that, the affordability issue isn't really a problem for a lot of people because they're locked into these lower interest rates. They have a house that has appreciated immensely. So at the end of the day, if they really need to get out of the house, they're not gonna just get it foreclosed on and then, oh, you can get it on the cheap. That's just not the way it's working right now, because they can go and sell it and still cash out and come out ahead. And with those high values and not wanting to buy something that's smaller and end up paying more for it because of higher interest rate, again, there's no leverage or reason for those people to sell their homes unless they can't afford it. The only thing that would maybe cause that is them like losing their job or something like that, which unemployment is crazy low right now. So you put that into context with everything, it's just like there's no reason for anyone to feel forced to sell low. There has to be that pressure. Otherwise, yeah, things are just going to stay the way they are.
Foreclosures are going on because you might get called up.
Yeah, there's some. We're not saying there's none, but, there's been predictions of waves of foreclosures.
And with the homes being overvalued, like you said, homeowners can sell. They have the opportunity to sell. It's not like the bank is just gonna come in and take your home. No, like you have a certain amount of time to try and sell your home. So people are actually making money on foreclosures because you pay off your loan and then you walk out with a little bit of cash.
Yeah, and let's say your house is valued at $500,000. Instead of foreclosing on it and like it going for $300,000, there's a good chance you can still sell it for $450,000, $480,000, $420,000, you know, and still come out way ahead. And maybe, yeah, you as a buyer could get a little bit of a deal then. But again, it's not going to be like the 2008 type scenario. I think we need to see something much bigger happen with people's incomes and things like that for something like that to ever happen.
Yes, I agree with that.
Again, inventory is crazy low. In our area, in the Sarasota, Northport area, we're sitting at about 3.5 months right now in August. And like Orlando, I think they're sitting at around 2.5 months, and they're one of the lower inventory areas. So gives you an idea of kind of the range that you're looking at. That's not a healthy market. A balanced market is 6-ish months.
3 to 6 months, but 6 months is definitely very healthy. 3.5 is like lingering between a seller's market and a buyer's market, which is kind of like what we're experiencing right now. So the thing to think about right now is, would you in 2 or 3 years wish you had bought your home in 2023? Because I've had a lot of buyers that they tell me, Heydy, I wish I had bought my home in 2019 or even 2021 when I first, contacted you. I wish I had bought then, because now I'm still in the market to purchase a home and now I'm going to end up paying even more than I would have back then.
Yeah, higher price plus now the interest rates.
Yes.
But again, like we said, I think this is the sliver of time where it's probably best. We're just speculating. So again, we don't know for sure what's going to happen with the market, but right now, prices generally can do this. Well, right now they kind of did this. So, they went like this, and then with them going flat, it can kind of maybe catch back up to where it should be and be closer to what it should have been in over the course of the last 3 years. It's not quite there. It's still a little bit higher than it should have been, but I think this is the downturn. The flattening is the downturn. And I think once interest goes back down, right back up with those prices.
Yes. And I don't think we're going to see prices drop below what they were in 2019 unless did happen something very dramatic, but it's just not possible.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something with the economy, or again, some of the other things that we'll talk about in the video that will be coming soon. Subscribe and turn on all notifications to catch that video.
If you're looking to buy or sell a home in the area, make sure to call, text, or email us. I am a local realtor here, 941-221-1897.
Call or text anytime, whether you're looking to move in the next few days or the next few months. We'll always have your back. We hear from people all the time, and we love it.
Thanks for watching, and live breezy.